welcome members of the management team, Superintendent Eberwin, Secretary Treasurer Reed, Assistant Superintendent McKenzie, and Director Hunter. We have regrets from Trustee Holman. I also want to acknowledge representing the Saanich Teachers Association, President Mr. Michael McEwen, and representing the Saanich Administrators Association is Mr. Peter Westhaver virtually and Ms. Sarah Postlethwaite virtually, and I think I see Mr. Hayes as well. Thank you. Welcome. And representing QP 441, Ms. Nola Welsh. And I don't believe we have anyone from the DPAC, the Confederation of the Parent Advisory Council of Saanich. And I wish to acknowledge that we're meeting this evening on the traditional territory of the Wasanich peoples who have lived, worked, and learned here since time immemorial, and that we thank them for this opportunity and offer this acknowledgement respectfully and sincerely, and in the hope that it is a small step towards reconciliation. Is there a motion to adopt the agenda? Trustee Silzer, seconder Trustee Vanwell. Are there any late items? Trustee Stell.
Just if you could add an MPS liaison report under Trustee Reports, number 13, please.
Yes. Just give me a moment, please. Trustees, is there any objection to adding that?
No. Should we add the BCSTA?
Yes. BCSTA AGM, you'll report on that. Trustee Vanwell, any objection, trustees, to adding that? All right, thank you. Anything else? All right, I'll call for a motion to adopt the agenda as amended. All in favor? Opposed? And the motion is carried. Thank you. Prior to the regular meeting, the board met in camera and discussed personnel matters. Moving to item 3 of the agenda, the adoption of board meeting minutes of April 20, 2022. Trustees, are there any errors or omissions to the minutes of April 2022? Trustee Stelk?
Oh, just that it's very mysterious that the meeting adjourned at XXX on page 6. I think it was 8:30 or 8:45 or something, but.
Okay, we can check from the video feed.
All right.
The archive and correct that.
I had the same one.
Same one? People read the minutes. Isn't that a good thing?
That's encouraging.
That's a good thing. Trustees, is there any objection to leaving that change with Secretary Treasurer based on the video record? All right, thank you then. All in favor of adoption of the board meeting minutes with that change? Opposed?
Oh, wait, sorry. Page 5.
Page 5.
Under HR, the amendment. The staff be requested to consult with employee groups and prepare a report. It should have had the rest of the phrase there. Otherwise, it just says prepare a report, doesn't say what on. It's an amendment.
A report, what would the language be, Trustee?
Right above, report on current retirement events, acknowledgements and recommendations to acknowledge all staff groups. It just got left off the end of the amendment, that's all.
Right, all right. Trustees, is there any objection to adding that phrase to the end of the amendment in paragraph 11? Seeing none, it's done. Now, anything else in the minutes? All right. All in favor of adoption of the minutes with those 2 changes as noted? Opposed? And the motion is carried. Thank you. There is no business arising from the minutes, as I understand it. Moving then to presentations, delegations, and questions. We have a presentation this evening from Mr. McEwen, the president of the Saanich Teachers Association. Welcome, Mr. McEwen, again.
Thanks.
And we look forward to
here so I can see it.
All right.
So I was asked to present the results of the equity audit So it was a survey that was done through all the teachers in the district had an opportunity to respond. About 175 teachers did. And
Yeah, sorry, Michael, I'm having.
no worries, I'll
getting it up
just
here.
add lib until it comes out.
We won't start the clock yet.
Oh, okay. Well, I better say a lot of things then. And so this is just sort of brief results of what was found. The focus was on discrimination, microaggressions, where people were feeling that they've been discriminated against or uncomfortable in situations, and essentially finding out whether they reported them or didn't report them, or if they witnessed other people being discriminated against in some format, and whether that was reported. So that's the basic gist of it.
Second, Dave, I'm not able to share this for some reason.
Oh, okay, hold on a second here. Sorry, bear with me here, Michael.
Sorry, it's probably my fault.
No,
Technology has been the bane of my existence this year.
I'll have to join the meeting here and then I can share it from mine.
Yeah, it's like I'm opening the share tray, but it's not there even though I have the PDF open. I will email it to you.
Thank you.
You have interesting background music for your show.
Yes, well,
Here I am.
yeah, I ordered that up for the October meeting, but,
They're a little late.
you know, supply chains.
Last time I was green, I think.
What?
Yeah, did you send it?
Yeah.
Okay. Here it is. Right.
So, a delegation from the SDA is meeting with Monica and possibly Pete. Pete, do you know about this on the 31st? Are you part of that? On this topic and sort of looking at equity and anti-racism and those kinds of topics. On the 31st?
I'm pretty sure it's in my calendar. I would have to look. There's a lot of things in my calendar that Monica's put in there.
Okay, perfect.
Thanks for putting me on the spot.
I was hoping Monica would be here because this would sort of get us off on that, just on a start from a starting point of view. But so I'm glad you're here, Pete, if you're attending. So next slide.
I can do that. Oops.
So there were 175 teachers that participated. 37% of the participants recorded experiencing, I'm just going to be reading these, maybe you can read them yourself and then ask me questions, but 35% of participants recorded experiencing discrimination, 22 reported, almost 30% recorded witnessing some discrimination, and about half of them, 15% of those reported it. So for people of color or racialized members, 12 members reported experiencing discrimination based on race or skin color, and 3 of those reported it. 20 participants recorded witnessing that discrimination. Of the 3 participants who identified as Indigenous, 1 person recorded experiencing discrimination, did not report it. 16 participants recorded witnessing discrimination against an Indigenous person. For LGBTQ2S plus members, 8 participants identified out of the 175, 4 recorded experiencing discrimination, and none reported that discrimination, and 13 people recorded witnessing discrimination. So gender basis, 117 participants identified as women, 28 recorded experiencing some discrimination, 4 reported that to someone, 30 people recorded witnessing. So you get a sense of the questions were basically, were you discriminated against? Did you report it? Did you witness discrimination on this basis? And did you report it? So 21 participants identified as men. Some participants didn't identify. So we don't have all of the statistics. You'll notice that it only adds up to about 140 out of our 175 people. Next slide. Recording discrimination on the basis of some other things. So being a refugee or an immigrant, speaking a language other than English, being neurodiverse, having a disability, religion or spirituality, body size, age, some older for being older, some for being younger, income inequality, family status. Thank you. And we found that many members did not know what constitutes discrimination or microaggression, especially microaggressions, and they didn't know how to report an incident or where to report it. So we're hoping to provide training to staff reps on the topic of diversity, equity, inclusion, and we have a plan to do that through the STA, as well as finding ways to provide information to all staff on those topics, microaggressions, discrimination, harassment, and then where they can find resources on the topics and support in terms of reporting, getting the help they need, whatever they might need to do. And one of the steps is to share the results of this audit with the board. So that's what I'm doing today. Collaborate with the district, and that's what I'm meeting with Monica and Pete and with the small group on 31st. And that is the report. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to try and answer most of them.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. McEwen. Trustees, any questions for clarification? Trustee Stelk.
So when the questions were asked, so you didn't show the survey, it's just, did you experience discrimination? So people are
Yes.
reporting
Yes.
what they believe to be discrimination.
Yes.
And what was the time period? Like, was it just ever in your career as a teacher, or was it this last year, or?
It was open-ended.
Okay, so,
Yeah.
so,
It is possible that it was further back and not immediate.
right, okay, so some people might be looking at a career discrimination and other people might have had an isolated event.
Yes.
Okay, and I guess I'm just interested that there were a lot more women than men. Is that because there are a lot more women female teachers?
People had the option whether to participate or not. It wasn't, there was no set criteria for participating. So there are more female teachers, and I'm guessing they're more likely to be willing to participate in the survey. One of the responses was essentially, why are you bothering with the survey? So.
So it was an online survey.
There was a Google document.
Yeah. Well, this is interesting. Thank you. This is interesting for us because we have, the policy committee has diversity and inclusion on its list of things to consider. So this is.
Yeah, and we're excited about
Yeah.
the potential and working together on it.
Yeah, thank you.
Trustees, any other questions? Superintendent, do you have any comment on this?
Well, I want to thank the STA for sharing some of the numbers with us. Obviously, the issue of discrimination or racism or intolerance towards those who are different or are expressing a diversity in some form is something that we take very seriously. And so, we certainly look forward to working with the STA on all sorts of initiatives. I know that this isn't meant to say that we've done enough, but certainly the district has continued to initiate a number of things such as cultural competency training, where our goal is to have everybody in the district trained. SOGI training, both for the SOGI reps in schools, but for others during Pro-D days and those types of things. I mentioned the Social Justice Committee that is meeting at the end of the month. I know Director Braniff will be joining you there as well too, so that's exciting. So there is work to do. I think we would be remiss if we thought that we didn't have an issue of discrimination or bias in our own school community when we know it exists out in the general community. So I think one of the powers, one of the responsibilities that we have as a school district is to find ways to continue to work together to generate educational opportunities and increased awareness around this very important topic. So thank you.
You're welcome. I did want to mention one that wasn't up there, which was discrimination on the basis of being Scottish, which sounds funny, but when you've got your email address and you don't get to have your name there.
With a capital in it, you mean?
With the capital in it. For some people, that is actually pretty serious. I myself am not too worried about it, but when I look at it, I go, that's me. There's not a capital E there, but so there are some small things that could be changed, maybe, and every small step helps.
All right. Thank you, Mr. McEwen, for that information and reminding us of the issue. Okay. Yeah. That is the
Here's
present.
to middle word capitals.
I've lost control of the meeting, obviously. I think you contributed to that, Mr. McEwen.
I apologize, Chair.
Thank you for your presentation. And it's now an opportunity for questions, if any, from our partners or our guests. Are there any? Mr. McEwen.
The SDA has asked some questions and we're still waiting for responses from questions asked in previous meetings and wondered when we might have some answers. Is there a timeline on answers?
Can you help us with the issue?
Well, there was the notice to end practice was one of the issues, and the issue around I guess overall just the cutting the 4 positions. And I know that at the last Budget Advisory Committee, there was great discussion and the SDA appreciates that discussion greatly, but still waiting for some additional answers.
So on the first one, Mr. McEwen, I will be forwarding correspondence to you shortly. And with respect to the second one, and I appreciate you had to leave the Budget Advisory meeting a little early for another commitment, but no recommendation was made by BAC yesterday. And so the debate and consideration of the budget development will continue at the June 1st special budget meeting.
Okay, thank you.
So really, there is no definitive answer to offer tonight.
Okay, fair enough.
Thank you. Are there any other questions from our partners or guests? Thank you. Then we'll move on to the report from the chair. And as the spring follows winter, we hope, or perhaps more appropriately, the calm follows the windstorm. Today, there's a rule, it seems to me, that as the school year end draws closer, we all get busier and more tired. And there's a number of reasons for that. It's driven by year-end activities such as grad recognition, which is a wonderful thing, of course. The development of the preliminary budget, which we've just referenced, retirement celebrations, administrative appointments, and other matters. Some of the business is as follows. Traditionally, before the trustee elections in the fall, the district hosts a session for information for folks who may be interested in standing for the board. The election this year, of course, is October 15. And so it's been arranged that there will be an hour-long meeting, more or less 7 to 8 on June 22 here at the board office, entitled So You Want to Be a Trustee. One piece of unfinished business, trustees, is the board advocacy plan. And trustees will recall perhaps that in January we passed a motion that the issue be referred to a future meeting of the Committee of the Whole after the strategic plan was approved. That, of course, occurred in March, but since then there has been intense budget activity and consultation, and it has consumed our time, attention, and energies. And so realistically, it appears that we will not be able to deal with that before the end of June or mid-June, which is our last meeting, June 15. But we have the direction to ourselves out there by resolution. So we need to deal with that. Some possibilities are we could deal with it at a committee of the whole, the August planning day, perhaps in September, perhaps leave it to the new board after the election. But perhaps trustees could consider this, and even after I've completed my report, if you wish to make any suggestions about that so that we can move along one way or the other with that, that would be appreciated. With respect to all things budget, you will also recall that in consequence of budget pressures, on April 7, the board extended the process for development of the preliminary budget and consultation. Those pressures included some stagnation in enrollment, unfunded inflationary pressures, which we've heard about repeatedly, and amendments to the Employment Standards Act for a 5-day sick or injury leave annual right, which is estimated to cost us in the district some $400,000. So further there to that direction on April 7, the following has occurred. The school communities and public budget meeting on May 4 at Bayside Middle School, student voice sessions at Parkland, Stellies, and Claremont Secondary Schools, a meeting with the Wasanich leadership on May 12, for which I was pleased to participate. The Budget Advisory Committee meetings of April 26 and the last one yesterday, May 17, which Mr. McEwen referenced already. Staff planning meetings and, of course, the survey. I want to express thanks again to Secretary Treasurer Reid for designing and steering the process that the board adopted, and for his clear and thorough presentations at these sessions, and for compiling the data and the input from our respondents and our partners and our public, and developing recommendations for the board that, as I've indicated earlier, we will be considering more closely at a June 1 special budget meeting, hopefully adopting the preliminary budget on June 15. Grad recognition is a wonderful opportunity to acknowledge the student success for which we're all working. Our 6 secondary schools are scheduling theirs for June, and trustees have been invited to bring brief greetings from the board to each of them, and have been so assigned. I'll also be attending and bringing greetings to Indigenous grad as well. This is a major step, as I say, acknowledging the success of our mandate and our students, and the board is pleased to celebrate the work in this way. The BC School Trustees Association Annual General Meeting was held in Vancouver, April 21 to 23. Vice Chair Vanwell and I attended along with Superintendent Eberwin as a guest. The title was From Grief to Medicine, Moving Forward with Good Hearts. And a new board was elected with President Carolyn Brody from West Vancouver. Trustee Vanwell will, as we heard when we were adopting the agenda, speak further to this under reports from trustee representatives. A bit of a corollary to that is that I heard from Gordon Lee, the BCSTA Director of Education Services, who will be on the island later this month, and he is asked to meet with me as chair for coffee on May 27. Nothing specific, offering assistance, perhaps a bit of follow-up to our planning day, maintaining the relationship. And so if you have anything you would like me to raise with him, please let me know for May 27. On April 29, we were pleased to, a number of us were pleased to attend the STA and SAA retirement banquet at the Beach House to honor the 2020 and 2021 retirees. This was the first such event in person since 2019 because of COVID. There was a good turnout. It was obvious that folks were craving the social contact as well as the congratulatory atmosphere to their colleagues and the celebration. And as I say, a number of us attended from the board, along with Assistant Superintendent McKenzie and Director Braniff, and I was pleased to bring greetings to the retirees from the board. The 2022 retirees, I understand, will be honored at some point in June, and I wish to express the board's thanks to Mr. McEwen as president of the STA and his committee for organizing the event and hosting it, and leading it, pardon me?
17.
June 17. Thank you. So that was no small event, and now you have to do it all over again on June 17. And then finally, I've received an invitation from the Vancouver Island School Trustees Association Executive to attend a meeting in Nanaimo on June 8 with the BCSTA Executive Director and President, Carolyn Brody. The focus is on BCSTA support of boards, advocacy, and priorities. There is some possibility that Minister Whiteside will attend. And if so, that may be helpful to some districts, including ours, with respect to budget issues. And again, if there are items that you would like me to raise at that meeting, then please let me know. And I will report on that in June. Before I turn to the superintendent, are there any questions on my report or any suggestions with respect to the advocacy issue? Trustee McMurphy.
How about this? That the question of board advocacy be referred to the incoming board for its consideration.
Is there a seconder? Trustee Stelk, do you wish to speak to it, Trustee McMurphy?
Yes, I think, we've it's kind of got away on us for this term. I mean, this is the end, this is our May meeting, and then we have June, and then September and October are going to be involved with, I'm sure, a whole lot of other things. And for us to develop a plan in September or October for advocacy for an incoming board when quite possibly none of us will be there. I mean, that's one of the rules of an election. So I think it's in terms of something that is going to be developed that the board could follow through on. I think it has to belong to the incoming board rather than us in the last gasps of our reign.
All right, thank you. Is there further discussion or debate on that motion? Trustees clear on that motion? I'll put the question then. All in favor? Opposed? It's carried. Thank you.
And I have a question. You spoke of Minister Whiteside possibly being in attendance at this advocacy meeting. There are a number of items that we have communicated to the minister, and not all of them have we received responses to, and that might be something that we could follow up with her if she's there. It could be characterized as, they're very, very busy down there and haven't got time for us, or it could be characterized in more extreme terms as a bit disrespectful not to even say, yeah, we got your letter, but we'll get back to you or anything like that. So, and I think clearly the question that has to be raised is this issue of continually disregarding the impacts of inflationary costs on school districts. I mean, I don't see how we can have a meeting with the minister and not emphasize that.
Thank you, Trustee McMurphy. I intend to do that, or endeavor to do that if she's there. I'm thinking of our last communication, which was phrased that we protested in the strongest possible terms and sought a personal meeting with her. And as you point out, we haven't even received a response. That's pretty clear. Thank you. And as I say, I'll do what I can if she's there, and I'll report in any case. Thank you. That's the chair's report. Superintendent, is there a report from you tonight?
There isn't one tonight. I will be doing a fairly comprehensive year-end report at the June board meeting. The focus has been primarily on budget this past little while. I know there's been lots of information on that, so you can expect a fairly robust report in June from me.
Thank you. School successes are attached in material.
School successes?
Yes, please.
A comment and a question. I was really, really pleased and moved to see the work that Keating had did with providing support to Ukrainian refugees. And I'm sure that this is probably not the only school or the only class in the district that has done something to contribute to support and relief for those people who are arriving here or who are providing support to them in Europe, one of the two. So I just wanted to acknowledge all the people who are doing what they can to help. My question is with regard to the Sydney Elementary celebration. It says they'll be celebrating on June 3rd. Is it possible that we will get more information about that so that if there's an opportunity for us to attend or participate or whatever, we'll know time and.
I'll have Mr. McKenzie follow up with Sydney as it's his zone.
Great, thanks very much.
Thank you. Moving then to committee reports. And the first one, back to you, Trustee McMurphy, Education Directions, please. Okay. We had 3 excellent presentations at the meeting. I have no recommendations, but I'll just give you a quick update. Great overview of the historical. I'm not sure why this is a celebration of a community program about fine arts. It was a celebration of a school program that has existed in that community for decades. They reference back to the era of the 60s with a drama teacher called Doug Bambara and his grassroots theater and how it's evolved and the wonderful things that they do and how it is such a cross school bonding. Everybody contributes from, so many different departments in the school, bringing together staff and students and creating that feeling of cohesiveness throughout the school. And I'm sure this is not unique to Parkland, but it was it's illustrative, indicative of what happens with these drama, theater, musical programs in all our secondary schools, I'm sure, but Parkland had the spotlight this time, so it was really great to see. And then, as you know, yearly we have a report from the district advocates. Renato Palma and Leo Holdstock came to represent the work and to discuss the work that they have done through the district and the kind of situations that they deal with and the children that they support. It's always a very moving presentation. And actually, Renato even highlighted for us before it hit the media the issue that's everybody is experiencing right now with their young teenagers ending up in downtown Victoria and getting into various kinds of trouble. And Renato was telling us about the kinds of things that they're trying to do to break that trend. And the last one was the early intervention for literacy thing being one of the major planks in our strat plan, sharing the plans for the coming school year. And thanks to Carly and Lisa Kinsella for the presentation there. It was again, the work that goes on in this district is truly remarkable. Thank you. Thank you, Trustee McMurphy. We'll move then to Finance, Facilities and Technology. Committee Chair Van Wel, please.
The committee didn't have any presentations and I have no items to discuss. We did have an item for recommendation. Statutory right of way for BC Hydro and TELUS. So the committee recommends that the board adopt BC Hydro and TELUS statutory right of way bylaw 2022 through 3 readings at the May 18th, 2022 board meeting. Do I read the second one after that? Or do we vote on that one?
If you can move the first reading.
Okay. The committee recommends, and I, Trustee Van Wel, move that the board approve the first reading of the BC Hydro statutory right-of-way bylaw 2022.
Seconded by Trustee McMurphy. Any discussion?
Just that I just we weren't at the meeting. We are planning on upgrading the electrical services in order to facilitate the upgrading of the shop dust collection system and the future installation of bus and vehicle charging stations. And this is a requirement from BC Hydro and TELUS in order to complete the work.
Further debate? The question then, all in favor? Opposed? Motion's carried.
The committee recommends, and I, Trustee Van Wel, move that the board approve the second reading of the BC Hydro statutory right-of-way bylaw 2022.
Trustee McMurphy, second. Discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Carried.
Motion to read for a third time that the board approve the reading of the BC Hydro statutory right-of-way bylaw 2022 at this board meeting for a third time.
Second, Trustee McMurphy, and I remind trustees that we need unanimity on this if we're going to proceed to complete the bylaw tonight. All in favor? Opposed? It's carried unanimously.
Third and final reading of that the board approve the third reading, pass and adopt the BC Hydro statutory right-of-way bylaw 2022.
Trustee McMurphy, second. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carried.
And then items for information, we got an update from about the Quilcet parking lot, the Prospect Lake site planning, the Parkland track update, the White Road Child Care Center, the fiscal forecast, and the report from the Budget Advisory Committee.
Thank you.
That's my report.
Thank you. Trustee Stelk?
Oh, thank you. Yes, I'd just like to, I attended with respect to the Quilcet parking lot, I attended the council meeting virtually on Monday. And it was primarily to do with Forest Park safety improvements, Forest Park Drive safety improvements in Yarrow Park. Speeding, but there is traffic congestion for short periods at the beginning and end of school at Quilcet. So there were a number of comments from North Saanich councillors regarding using the East Field, which is ALR, for parking. There seemed to be some confusion about the efforts of the school and the district to manage parent drop-off and pickup at the school. This was when Quilcet was constructed, North Saanich approved construction, including parking, and on the Forest Park Drive parking. So this is an item that no doubt will be in communication with North Saanich Council. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other questions or comments for Trustee Van Well on the finance report? Thank you, Trustee Van Well. We'll move on. Trustee Silzer, there is no human resources report in regular. And back to you, Trustee Stelk, as Chair of the Policy Development Committee.
Thank you. Yes, so there was a unanimous motion by the board on March 16th, just following up on the importance of the strategic plan and move some of the items that were on the list through those motions to incorporate the strategic plan ideas, themes into the beliefs, the visions, the themes, and the goals of Policy 1, the foundational statement, which is sort of the keystone for policy, and also to move the logo and the legal name into operations. It was felt that that was a sort of a more appropriate place for them. So the committee recommends, and I, Trustee Stelk, move that the board confirm its consideration to revisions to Policy 1, foundational statements as proposed.
Second by Trustee McMurphy.
Should that say of, consideration of?
Consideration of, yes.
Of revisions?
Yes, thank you.
All right, thank you. Trustee, here you second that. Do you wish to speak further to that, Trustee Scott?
I don't think so. I think it just it's the builds on certainly on the importance of communication and collaboration with the Wasinich Nation and Indigenous student success, and so a number of the also civic sort of responsibility for the health of the planet, stewardship, global citizen. The themes are all there. And I think with these additions, we have the policy, the foundational statements, Policy 1, fitting nicely together with the strategic plan.
Thank you.
There's cohesion.
Thank you. Any other discussion on this, trustees? Then I'll put the question on the motion that the board confirm its consideration of revisions to Policy 1, foundational statements as proposed. All in favor? Opposed? Motion's carried.
So I provide notice that at the September 2022 public meeting, which seems like a long way off, but anyway, there it is, of the Board of Education, I will move the following motion that revisions to Policy 1 foundational statements be approved.
Thank you.
So that's the first one. And then the second one is to do with the board operations. This is just a little drier. Has to do with the logo and the name and the legal name. And it was in foundational statements, and it was felt that perhaps that wasn't the best place for it. So it's the suggestion is that it gets moved in the attachments, that it be moved to operations, which is policy 9. So the committee recommends, and I, Trustee Stelk, move that the board confirm its consideration to revisions to policy 9, board operations as proposed.
So we're using the word of again?
Oh, yes, we are.
Is there a seconder for that? Trustee McMurphy? Trustee Stelk?
I think it's explanatory. I think it really wasn't a good fit under foundational statements, and it is an operational matter, so it belongs in policy 9. It was in the wrong place.
Thank you. Trustee
So
McMurphy?
just to note, so by doing that, we're essentially removing it from the one we just approved, right?
Yes. Yes.
All right, I'll put the question. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion's carried.
So I, Trustee Stelk, provide notice that at the September 2022 public meeting of the Board of Education, I will move the following motion that revisions to policy 9, board operations, be approved. And we'll take it out of foundational statements and plunk it into policy 9.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Does that complete your report?
That does. Yes, we are just future agenda. We are going on to the very exciting elections bylaw in June, and policy 21, bus and van transportation. Yes.
All right, thank you. While you have the floor then, Trustee Stelk, let's move to item 13, reports from trustee representatives and your report on the MPS meeting.
Yes, thank you. So this was May the 3rd, and the interesting thing about this is we haven't had a meeting since December the 7th. There was big gap in the middle. There had been an AGM and a little bit of movement within the board. The big news is the executive director, Brad Edgett, is leaving June 30th. He has been instrumental, I'm going to say fantastic, in getting shows for Sydney. And so that's a big loss. They are currently searching for a new executive director because he'll be gone the end of next month. He did express his gratitude to Rob Lund, Jason Reed, and Lisanne Chicano for all the work that they have done for the Parkland track, which is now being torn up and rebuilt. And so I thought that was really, I was grateful that he acknowledged you in the board meeting. So the Parkland track is fallen just short of its goal for a rubber surface. So hopefully the plan right now is to put down the asphalt and rebuild it, and it'll be ready for the fall. But our hope is somehow magically the last $100,000 will appear so that a rubber track can be installed. And I just want to comment too that there's work being done in Blue Heron Park. There's trees being cut down, they're widening the trails, and this would include the area behind the school, behind Parkland, which is used extensively by students at both North Saanich and Parkland. Widening the trails, and there's some water management and ivy removal going on too. Yeah. Directed by Floyd, the very able by Floyd Myatt. That's good.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Trustee Stelk on this report? Thank you, Trustee Stelk.
Yeah, thank you.
And Trustee Van Well on the BCSTA AGM, please.
Thank you. So elaborating on what Chair Dunford mentioned in his report, we had the BCSTA AGM in April, and the theme was from grief to medicine, moving forward with good hearts. And I think it was really well titled. There was, we started out Friday morning with all trustees entering a longhouse, and we were all seated together, and we were we heard stories from the land and wisdom sharing led by many elders from across the province. It was quite an emotional time. And one of the things that was interesting was, even though we had a timetable, they didn't adhere to it. They took their time. They shared their hearts, and it was very it was nice to hear. It was very nice to hear. In the afternoon, we met. We had a presentation from FINESC, and the BCSTA signed a memorandum of understanding with FINESC, and this is to ensure that we can work together to meet the needs of First Nation students in all of our schools. And I have a copy of the memorandum of understanding if anybody would like to take a look at that. At the end of the day, we were presented, 5 students came and presented a slideshow. It was 15 slideshows that were auto-advanced for a 5-minute period, and each slide the student spoke to each slide, and it was in the theme of Student Ignite, and it was Beyond the Gap, and it was, again, they were all Indigenous students, and it was very heartfelt and very interesting to hear their perspectives on things that they had experienced. And then on Saturday, we had the new election of the Board of Directors, and as Chair Dunford mentioned, Carolyn Brody, who was the Vice President, became the President of the BCSTA, and Tim Bennett, a former Director, is now our Vice President, along with John Chenoweth, Jean Fearing, Tracy Loeffler, Bob Holmes, and Jen Menzies, who are now our Directors. And then finally, we did the debating of the motions. We had the ones that I had presented at the last board meeting. Only one did not pass, the trustee honorarium framework that was defeated. And then we had 3 late motions, all of which spoke about advocacy for shortfalls within our districts, operation grants, cost sharing, and yes, so and all of those carried forward. So there is some advocacy from the BCSTA to the ministry to try to start funding some of these costs that we've been experiencing. So, that's my report.
Thank you. Any questions for Trustee Vanwell? I might note that both Mr. Bennett and Dr. Chenoweth are Indigenous.
Yes.
And so they're the Vice Chair, BCSTA, will probably succeed to the chair position at some point when Ms. Brody is done. And we will most likely have an Indigenous chair of the BC School Trustees for the second time. That's right. Thank you, Trustee Vanwell. We'll move then to item 14, correspondence. There are 8 letters noted. Are there any questions or is there any discussion with respect to any of those items? Trustee McMurphy?
I would just like to express my own appreciation. I don't want to assume I'm speaking for the board, but I was impressed with the thoroughness and the tone of the various letters from various members of the Saanich Teachers Association. I did appreciate the time and effort and thought that they put into their letters, and I don't know if you could pass that on through you to the president of the STA, but I was very appreciative of the work they put into creating the information that they presented to us and the arguments that they put forward.
So, Mr. McEwen, if you would like to take those comments from Trustee McMurphy back to your members.
I would be delighted.
Thank you.
And that includes the letter from, what's his name? Mr. Capital E.
Oh, that one.
Yeah. And I had one other, just a second. Oh, yes, it was about this, the letter about the, dissection. Is there any comment from staff on that?
Sure, I can offer comment, and I don't know if the assistant superintendent or the director would like to comment afterwards. Our schools have been reducing the number of dissection activities that they are doing. There's very few, if any, that are done anymore. Typically, they're done in senior biology classes. The fetal pig is done for anatomy dissection. Very few others, if any, are done, and alternate activities are always provided to students if they have either religious, cultural, or other reasons for not participating. Staff are very amenable to making those accommodations. I do notice just a personal note of one of the examples given in the letter from the Humane Science Society was an admin procedure that I wrote in West Vancouver back in 2013 that has my writing all over it. So it's certainly an area I'm quite familiar with.
So that kind of answers my second question then, because I was wondering if we should refer this to the policy committee, but it sounds like we don't need to. It's already basically it's what's happening in the schools anyway.
It's what's happening currently right now. The board could always direct the superintendent as per policy to draft an admin procedure as well too if they felt it was necessary. But I don't think it is necessary because alternatives are all already being given. But if the board felt that it was required, I could certainly take that direction.
I personally don't feel that it's necessary to have a policy if it's already practiced, but I'm just wondering if we could reply to the Society for Humane Science saying, although we don't have policy, it is our practice and that is what happens in our schools. Maybe should I move?
Let's have a motion, sure.
I would move that we reply to the Society for Humane Science regarding policies on dissection, that while we do not have a policy, it is our practice within the school district that options are available to students to have alternative strategies and activities which meet the science curriculum learning outcomes without animal dissection.
Is there a seconder for that motion? Trustee Vanwell, do you wish to speak further to that, Trustee Murphy? All right. Is there any discussion? Trustee Stell?
I'm just wondering if there's anything no, I'm not opposed to the motion. Is there anything in administrative procedures with respect to student choice and dissection? Would that be an appropriate place? Would there be something?
Mr. Superintendent.
There currently isn't anything in our administrative procedures around choice around dissection, but it is our current practice in our schools to provide that to students who request it. That was my comment earlier, that if the board felt it was appropriate to have an admin procedure according to policy, you could direct the superintendent to create such an admin procedure. There isn't currently one specifically on dissection and alternate activities for it.
So it wouldn't have to be in policy, but it could be in the admin procedure.
I would suggest it would be an appropriate admin procedure because it's operational versus a policy.
I would like to see the admin procedure, just so it's clear.
I wouldn't even need to plagiarize because it's mine.
Well, let's deal with this motion first.
Yes.
And then Trustee Stell, if you wish to make that
Sure.
a motion, we can pursue.
We have seek agreement that
We could add
to,
this is an anticipatory amendment.
I don't think I've read about those.
I'm sure it's in Roberts somewhere. And that the board will be, I better not put that in because the board might not choose to add a administrative procedure. Let's deal with this first, and then if we deal with Trustee Stout's motion, then we can add it.
All right.
Confuse the matter.
All right. So are we clear on Trustee McMurphy's motion with respect to responding correspondence? All in favor? Opposed? Motion's carried. Trustee Stell.
So just a motion to request staff to direct, well, I'm wondering, does it have to go to policy committee first? We don't think so? Okay. a motion to request the staff to take his own admin procedure and to
develop.
from another district and put it into our admin procedures. Yes.
Second by Trustee McMurphy. Trustee McMurphy?
And an amendment, and that the Society for Humane Science be so informed.
Is there any objection to including that reference in the letter that we've just agreed to send? No objection, it's done. That will be included. Now back to Trustee Stout's motion to have staff prepare an administrative procedure on this. Are there any further questions or discussion? All right, all in favor? Opposed? That motion is carried as well.
Just a point of clarification, if I can, Mr. Chair, the motion from the board to write a letter, was that directed towards the board writing the letter, or is that for the superintendent to offer a response?
That was for the board.
Okay.
Was it not, Trustee McMurphy?
I just got an email, a text from Ms. Glancy asking me to write out the motion so she can get it. So
I
can I
got
tell
most
you,
of it, just not all of it, sorry.
what did it say at the beginning, Lee?
It said that the board replied to the Humane
Okay.
Science.
That was my
Society.
understanding.
Okay.
Yeah. But I didn't get the end of it, Elsie, so if you could send me
Okay,
that.
I'll do my
And-
best.
And while I'm here, can I get the seconder for that motion? I missed it, and I don't think Jason got it either, so.
For Trustee
The
McMurphy's
first
letter?
one, yeah, the
That was
letter.
Trustee Vanwell.
Thank you. Thank
You
you.
have enough to do, Mr. Eberwin. We're happy to look after this, as I point to your colleague. All right, we've resolved the dissection correspondence. Trustee Silzer.
With respect to the correspondence dated April 19th, 2022 from the District of Saanich and the City of Victoria, I'm wondering if staff has any comment on, this is the materials on anti-Islamophobia.
Superintendent?
Thank you very much. It's very interesting that it comes on the heels of the presentation from the STA today around discrimination and other forms of concern within our staff. Certainly the issue of any kind of intolerance or discrimination against a religious group or others who are showing differences is something that we take very seriously. I know our schools currently offer students of the Muslim faith quiet places to do prayers during Ramadan or other religious events. As we do with all religions, we work to accommodate students. With regards to the particular request from Saanich and Victoria municipalities, I've asked the assistant superintendent to work with our secondary schools to see what opportunities might exist to help expand the knowledge base, and we will make sure to communicate back with this organization to see if there's anything that might fit into our plans. If not this year, then certainly next year.
Thank you. Is that it for correspondence, colleagues? Or are there any other questions on section 14? Seeing none, we'll move then to the second question period for partners and public and guests, if any. Wave vigorously if anyone has one.
Sorry, where are we?
The second question period, section 15.
I'm trying to write them.
Right, there are no items, and so we'll move to item 16, other business as submitted, and there we have the 2022-23 committee and board meeting proposed dates. Secretary Treasurer Reid, would you like to introduce this, please?
Sure. So these are the committee and board meeting dates for next year, and this is the meeting at which they are approved each year. Consistent, the dates are consistent with this year, and they do align with the election. The operations was amended to reflect the timing of the election being in October, which is consistent with 2022. Yeah, so the AGM being on November 7th is also consistent with this, whereby the first meeting following the election, I believe, is the first Monday in November.
Is there a motion to adopt these dates? Trustee Stills here, is there a seconder? Trustee Snell? Do you wish to speak to it? Is there any discussion from any trustee about this? Then I'll put the question. All in favor? Opposed? And the motion is carried. Mr. Reid, there are no items for information, I take it? No. All right. That completes the agenda, trustees. Is there any objection to adjourning the meeting at this time? Hearing none, I declare that we are adjourned at 8:04. Thank you, everyone, for your participation.
Bye, everybody. Bye, everybody.
I missed the hour, but.